take it over. Sound
Cool.
Good? Okay.
Awesome. I love basketball. I love church ball. I always thought of church ball as, especially officiating church ball, a way you can really make a difference. Sometimes in many other callings, you're like, am I really making a difference? And church ball, if you can make a difference, whether it's young men or men, on the outcome of the game, not the win or lose, but what kind of experience people have, ultimately it's up to the players, right, to control themselves and to have restraint. But if you come and you officiate the game decent and with decent skills, it makes a huge difference on the outcome versus people getting in fights and pushing each other around and not knowing what to do or how to handle it. So you really can make a big difference with people who come and play church ball. You've all heard the funnies about church ball. Have you guys seen that music video that was put out? Church ball with a brawl. It's really funny. So hopefully, actually, how many people here are officiate regularly for church ball? A couple. Anybody else? No. How many are called, like, from the state here to be officials? All right, so you guys do it. So a few years ago, the church kind of recommended calling officials and having them trained. Officiating basketball is really kind of hard, and it takes effort to try to be good at it. Just like any other calling where you would study, and if you're teaching gospel doctrine, you're going to study and research and prepare your lessons so you're prepared when that time comes. It's the same thing with officiating basketball. You need to prepare, you need to know the rules, and the other things that go along with that. And it feels good that when you make a call and you know the call, you know the rule, and you're going to have somebody argue with you because they don't know the rules. They're used to playing pickup ball, and kind of like, when the ball's shot and it gets stuck at the rim, it's automatic in pickup ball. Oh, it's the other ball. It's going the other way. It's the other team's ball. Well, it's a jump ball, and so you just want to know that kind of helps. So it just feels good to have that confidence when you know the rules, you've done your research, and practice. So we're going to talk about knowing the rules. The next part is knowing the mechanics. Mechanics is the way the officials make the signals. So if I'm standing down here, there's a foul called, I blow my whistle. If it's a foul, my hand's closed. If it's a violation, it's open. And this kind of means stop the clock. There's a violation, a travel, out of bounds, or something like that. The reason this is important is when you're officiating with someone else, you raise your hand as a foul, he raises his hand as a violation, and you kind of pay attention to each other, then you got to come together and talk and say, okay, what did you see? What did I see? I saw this. It's okay, well, it's in your area, so you make the call. Or you just kind of discuss it. Now, the biggest thing, I think, besides knowing the rules really good, and the mechanics, which is nice, is developing an eye for being able to see the play. Basketball is so fast. Everything's so fast. Hands are swiping at the ball and swiping everywhere, and it's really hard to see. Did he get the hand, which is part of the ball, or did he get the wrist, which is not? And when a hand's going like this and you hear something, if it's the hand, technically it's not a foul. The wrist definitely is. So it's hard to see that unless you've practiced and you've kind of trained yourself, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about in different situations. Is like, okay, you're the lead official, the ball's on a fast break, there's a guy coming down with him. What am I going to watch for specifically? Instead of just watching the whole play, of like, okay, I'm just going to watch the whole thing, see what happens. There's contact, this and that, and you're like, I don't know. Did he get fouled? Did he push off? It's hard to know. But while that's happening, you're like, okay, I'm going to be in position where I can see between the players if possible. I'm focused on the defense. That's where you're going to focus, is the defense. I'm watching the defense. Okay, does he move the guy, the defender? What's his arms doing? So you're going to watch very specific things. That makes officiating so much easier than just watching the whole big picture. Now, good officials, they've been doing this years and years, they can watch 3 or 4 things at once and be fine. But as amateurs, and not doing it every day in training and everything, It takes a lot of practice. And so we're going to talk about different situations, what to watch for. We're going to talk about the rules, and then definitely ask any questions as we're going along about those specific rules or anything. It's kind of a, so I'm not just lecturing the whole time, it's a little bit of interaction the whole time. Okay, did you print any of these out?
Yes.
So let's hand these out, and we'll just kind of go through this, and
Might
you
not have
guys,
enough for everybody, so you might wanna, you can share. Or you can look at the email I sent you, that works too.
What email? Just kidding.
Oh, he's got they've got email. Andrew, I need to give you all my email, sorry.
You're okay.
Okay.
all right, so we're going to start
Wait,
with,
which one are you on? Okay, good, because I did think these two, but I didn't know which one.
so we're going to be on, yeah, okay. So, the first section where it says the system for reffing the plays. Anticipate the play and possible action, not the foul. So you don't anticipate the foul, because then you'll see those like, you'll make the call because you're expecting somebody to get hit. Oh, they didn't get hit, but you already made the call because you already anticipated. So you anticipate the action. The fast break's coming. You're anticipating, okay, there's probably going to be something going on. You don't know what. You're watching for arm. You're watching for contact. Okay, nothing happened. Good. You know. So keep that. That's really important. Know the common and possible fouls and violations that occur in any type of play. Let's see, do I have situations? Okay, we're going to go through some of those. Look for specific detail or action. Don't just watch the action. Make the call or no call. Know why you made the call or why you didn't. So, for example, this is the big one. You guys have all dealt with this. There's a big guy right here. The guy gets the ball and he just stands here like this. The rule of verticality is if he is straight up and the guy with the ball kind of swings up, hits his arms, and goes for the shot, if he's, within his cylinder, there's no foul. But if he goes like this, which a lot of big guys do, they're like, oh yeah, I got this guy. He goes like this, and then the guy with the ball swings up, hits his arms, it's a foul because he's outside of the cylinder. Now, if you're standing there, and you know exactly what to watch for. Oh, big guys, hands are up. They're either here or they're here. You know exactly what, to say. And so it happens all the time. The big guy's there. He gets his arms hit. You call the foul. I was just standing there. You know exactly why you made the call. It's like, well, your hands were here instead of here. And so then it either teaches him, which a lot of times you do. You have to teach people. Or he knows what to do. So no call, no why. Okay, down to the next section. Okay, so now we're going to talk about possible scenarios. Let me see. Close position. Actually, before I get to that, let's talk about positioning on the court. So in order to be able to, I'm going to walk around. I always walk around a lot. So in order to see the foul, or to be in the best position to see it, we got to be in the best position to see it. So let me have. Can you come here? So one thing you want to watch for: he's dribbling the ball. I'm guarding him. Don't pay attention to the rim at this point. Hold the ball. Hold the ball. Since I can't talk over the ball. So you want to be in position that you can see between the players. So if I was the official and there's a player there, I want to be here, but everybody's always moving, so you're having to always move to see between them. And when you move, you're going to move with very specific action. You're not just going to wander around and kind of go like this. You probably will just because you're still figuring it out, but it's easy. You want to move. Okay, I know I need to be over here now. I need to see this. And then you stop, you open up to the play where you just got a good view of it. You walk to the other spot. The goal is to be in the best position. And so we're going to talk about that. So this is the lead official. If the ball's down here And the lead official is under here. Okay, so there's 2-man and 3-man. I'm sure most of you have seen that. We're going to go 2-man. We're going to focus on 2-man. Do you guys usually have 2 or 3? 2. 2, okay. You can't get 3?
Just for regional.
So if you do have good
Yeah, that
games
you're
or you
lucky.
have teams that you learn that are really competitive and they're a little physical, it's always good to try to get that third one. Will help out a lot. So, positioning. Usually, you move anywhere from there to here. They used to say don't go under the key, but now they say go where you need to be. If you need to move here to see that play, to see between, see what's happening on that action right there, go ahead and move there. You kind of follow the ball. So if the ball's over here, in this area, you're going to move over here. And it's nice if there's room, which is room on this court, step back a little bit. Don't be right here. Stay back so you can just get a good angle, a good wide view. As the ball moves around, you're going to, you follow here. Now, you don't follow the ball all the way over there, even though you keep one eye over there. This lead official, his area is the key, the square part of the key, not the round part, and from the free throw line straight across. So that's his big rectangle where he has primary focus of when he's here, that's his primary focus. That doesn't mean the other official can't make a call in his area. The old-timers officials, they would get upset if you'd make a call in their area, even if they couldn't see it. But the ultimate goal is to get the call right versus worrying about whether somebody's calling in your area. But there are certain practicalities of, if you're down here and there's a fast break and your other official is down there, you're not likely going to make a call all the way down the court. But it's possible you could. Say like your other official's over there and you're about here and you got a good angle between these 2 players and you can see that the defender pushed into the guy going up for the layup. If you have a good clear view, go ahead and call it. But in general, if my other official's over there, you're not going to make a call right next to him. It's just kind of bad form to do that. If he misses it, you just kind of feel like that's just we all miss calls. I mean, it's just the nature of basketball. Calls are going to be missed. So, you'll usually switch on every foul unless it's a long foul. So, like, say there's a fast break starting to happen and I was here and I'm starting to go this way and I see a foul right here. I call it, I report to the table. I'm not going to make my other official come all the way down here and kind of switch, just because it takes too much time and effort. So you just call it, do the administer and keep going.
Hey, I have a question, because I've never interrupted before. So you switch every time there's a foul that you call?
In general, yes.
Generally you switch. I didn't know that.
That's the rule. So as you don't have the same person officiating the same players on offense or defense the whole time. It just kind of helps to mix it up. And especially if you made a few calls under here and some of the audience over here doesn't like it, it's nice to get back at the top. So you don't hear your little jabbering behind you. Okay, so...
And Ron, you used to do the switch right when the person that calls the foul goes in and reports, and then the other will just make that switch at that point.
that's exactly right. So you'll switch. So your table's over there usually, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So say I'm over here, I make the call. Let's go through this whole process. So I see a foul, I pull this over, my hands closed. You keep an eye on the player. Sometimes if it's a little harder of a foul, players get a little excited. So you want to keep your eye on here. The other official wants to keep his eye on the group of players also. And then you're going to just get to where the table can see you. They used to have your report all the way to the center, but it just took so much time, so we're trying to speed up the game. You just want to get to where the table can see you. White 2-4 with the push, 2 shots. And then if it was down here, the other guy would run down there to administer the free throws, and I would come up over here. You go on table side. The top official, like on a free throw, goes on table side to call in subs and stuff like that. Any questions about that? Good? Good. Very good. Okay, so now we talk about the trail official. So, we'll just, I'll go here since I was over there. The goal is to keep the main group of players between you two. If your other official is to that corner watching the ball here, you're not going to come all the way over to here and kind of watch this. That's kind of his focus. You would stay more over here, so you got the better group, because this is your area here, this big L shape. But you can't, when you're watching the players on ball, you can make this big, kind of this big area right here. You can move kind of wherever you need to. But it's kind of a big L shape of moving back and forth. Kind of the goal is keeping between, this player split between you and where you need to see the ball and the action. The trail official will signal for most of the three-point line. So if he watches the guy puts up a shot, he's behind the line, he'll signal anywhere from this side all the way down to maybe here, around here. They don't have an exact place, but around here. If it's down there and it's taking a shot, then he'll be the one to signal. And now if he takes a 3-point, you notice his foot's on the line, you don't raise your hand. If it goes in, look at the table, 2-2, as you go back. One thing I want to talk about before we move on. The only other person who likes you on the court is your partner and the table. Players aren't going to like you because you're making calls against them, or you missed the calls, or you made bad calls. But, so, it's really good to always have eye contact with your partner. So, like, if I'm going to throw the ball in, let's go through that real quick. Where's that ball? We got the ball? Here's the ball. So you always designate where you want the player to go. So you call a foul or out of bounds, and you say, okay, right here. You're telling the player where you want him to go. You're going to always be on the outside of him in relation to the rim. So you'll point there, you'll give him the ball, and so what you do is you hand him the ball, you raise your hand, and then you're going to count. And he has till 5 to get rid of it, just out of his hands. The other thing you're going to watch for while you're standing here is if he's being guarded, especially near the end of the game when they're really trying to get the ball back, if the defender's like right here, and they go to make the throw, you're going to see this occasionally where his hand will come across that vertical plane. If you notice it right when it comes across, then you'll blow the whistle and give him a warning. It's called a delay of game warning. If he does it again, then it's a technical. If he hits the ball when it's still in the player's hand inside the line, then it's the same thing. But if this person steps and goes to throw the ball over the line, like reach across, and I hit the ball or something, it's okay because they're across the line.
So did you say, Ron, it's a technical if the defender reaches over the line and hits the ball out of the players?
Yeah.
Okay.
If he touches it at all.
Yeah.
You give them a warning first?
Yeah, warning on, well, it's kind of like, so say like they throw the ball and you tip it. Actually, I had a play right here. It was a championship game about 5 years ago on this court. It was right there. The guy was throwing in the ball. The other team was trying to get it really bad. There was like 10 seconds left. I threw in the ball. The guy was here, and he threw the ball this way, kind of down the line. Kind of this big, angry guy kind of reached right here, tipped the ball somewhere here, and they got the ball. But I called it delay a game and they got the ball back. And so he threw a fit. Even after the game was over, 10 seconds later, he was just over there, he kept looking at me. Oh! I was like, come on. You touched the ball outside the line, But people are excited, guys are competitive, usually, and they don't always know the rules.
They know the rules when it's for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Good call, ref. Good call, ref. I always hear that all the time when you make a good call.
Yes.
Perfect call. Great call. So I forgot. When you're getting ready to do the ball, before you do anything with the ball, you're gonna make eye contact with your other official. Make sure he's ready, make sure he's not talking at the table, make sure he's in position. So you just get eye contact. Okay, here we go. And really important. That's a hard habit to kind of pick up, but you just want to do that all the time. And because sometimes, yeah, he's not ready or something. Okay. Any questions yet?
Can the defender stand as close to the out of bounds line as he or she wants, as long as they do not reach over?
Yep.
Okay, so there's no
Unless-
like 2 feet,
Unless
1
there's, like,
foot back,
Unless there's like a wall that doesn't give them at least 3 feet.
okay?
Yeah, 'cause we've had issues on the
then you'll
sides.
say, right here, you'll kind of give the defender, okay, you can't cross this right here. And so then you can stand right here. That's it.
Okay.
Can they run up and down the baseline?
Hmm?
Can they run the baseline?
After a made basket, or a timeout after a made basket. So basically only after a made basket. If it's out of
Yeah.
bounds or a violation, they have a 3-foot area as far back as a mile or whatever. So, and there's no travel or anything, so if I'm throwing the ball in, I can back way up, I can walk, I can do whatever. I can't go like this, I can't leave my 3-foot area. And so,
But after a made basket, you could.
yeah, if the basket's in and they're trying to play defense, so you're running around back and forth,
Okay.
trying to get it in. Yep. Yep, good questions. Okay.
Good.
Okay, so, okay, let me have 2 volunteers, somebody who can dribble, and somebody who can kind of guard. You can't dribble?
I can dribble.
Okay, so I need some, okay, all right. So we talked a bit about this, let's come up here, this is usually where a lot of guarding in the open court happens. So, I'm the official, my first rule is to see between the players. So as the defender gets up closer, so what is my primary focus on seeing what's happening? Defense. Referee the? Defense. Yep, very good. So I'm gonna focus on her, but then I still gotta pay attention to him, right? I gotta have one eye on her and a quarter of an eye on there. In case he travels, so like, say he hasn't dribbled yet. So hold your ball, you haven't dribbled yet. Okay. He's pivoting around as he's looking for a pass or maybe dribble. I'm watching, okay, is her arms, what is her arms doing? What's her body doing? So sometimes what you'll see, if you, like, when somebody gets trapped in the corner, the defender will push forward, will like lean into him as he's like going like this. Yeah, so that's, as you're watching between the players, you'll see, what is the defender doing? She's displacing the other player, so that makes it easy to see, oh, it's an easy call. When you're just watching all this action going on and these arms flying around, you're like, I don't know what happened. I know something happened. So that's really good. So you're gonna watch between the players, watch what the body does, watch what the arms do.
So the body, like, moving forward is a violation.
Yep. Well, if it pushes into the person.
Okay.
You can be right up next to them, and it's fine, but what happens is they get right up next to them, and then they start leaning into them, and it's kind of like pushes them out of bounds. Or...
Because then you have this whole foul where the defender's right here and the person with the ball whips right into them.
Yeah, so it could be, if this person moves with their elbows, then it would be a violation or a flagrant or an intentional foul. And we'll talk about elbows in a minute. So, but you are allowed to kind of create a little space. You can move that way, but you can't move through the player. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like if you have the ball, you can't push off to create that space. That would be the same thing. You still can't create space with the ball. So guarding. Any questions about that? Okay, so now the next one we're going to talk about is, focus on defenders. Okay, so say you got the ball and you can still dribble. So we're watching the defender, but we know you're probably going to take off here in a minute. You're going to start driving. So the first thing you're watching for on the offensive player, when he starts pivoting, is which is his pivot foot. Once you decide his left foot is his pivot foot, traveling is really easy for the most part. Until then, if you're like, oh wait, because a lot of times people will pivot, they'll stop, and then they'll pivot the other way. You know, really easy, and you won't pick it up because he stopped and switched. So, okay, so then you pay attention to the offense, what his pivot foot is. He's pivoting around, and he's going to make a move to the hoop. Now, what does he have to do before that foot comes off the ground? His pivot foot comes off the ground.
Release the ball.
He's got to release the ball either for a pass or not a shot, but a pass or a dribble. Not a pass, because he can jump in the air and pass. But for dribbling, he has to let go of that ball before it comes off the ground. So you'll see this often. They catch the ball, he makes a move. You know, they do that switch. It's really easy to see when you're looking for it. If you're not looking for it, it happens so fast, it's like, oh, nothing happened. But it happens so much. I mean, it's just because it's part of our reaction to do that. So if you just watch that pivot foot, and you know, does he get that ball off? Because you'll see a lot of times they'll step and they'll start to dribble, and so you can't. But talking about traveling, that's a good. So now the other part of traveling, which is really frustrating to me, because I have this move. I mean, it's my move, but a lot of people do it. So I'll kind of go here and I'll fake, and I'll get two big guys here. They'll kind of go up, you know. So I kind of step here, they go up, and then I step, and I just kind of step through them. And usually it's a pretty big step. So I fake, I step, and then I go like this. And I don't know, maybe 7 out of 10 times, the referee will call a travel, and I'm like, no, it's not a travel. So a travel is, one of the ways is, so you pick up your pivot foot, and you can pretty much stay there all day. Well, not in the key, but you can stand there all day. And, for your 5 seconds if you're being closely guarded. But, so it's not a travel until it touches the ground again. So, any questions about travel? Because that's can be.
So you said like if you're stopped with the ball, and this is your left foot, your pivot foot. If I pivot again to try and get around the guy and pick this up, it's not a travel until my foot touches the ground again.
Exactly. But if I dribble, it would have been a travel.
Right.
If I still had my dribble. Okay. Yep.
I guess you're saying, when you stop, if you're going 1, 2, and you stop, this is your pivot foot, whereas jump stop, you haven't.
Yeah. So this is something else I haven't gotten about the rules. In the rule book, it says when you're in the air and you catch the ball, your first foot that hits the ground is your pivot foot. But all the time, and I've seen high school refs in high school games do this. They'll catch the ball, they'll do it, and then they'll just let them pivot on the other foot. And I always ask the refs, well, why did you guys call that? And I never got a good answer. So technically, it's the first foot that lands. But yeah.
Now, as a clarification on your move, what you're saying is that when you stopped and pivoted, you would stop on this foot, you'd pick up that foot, and then step in between them. That's where the travel occurs. But if they were to pivot and then leap off of their pivot foot, that's not a travel if they leave the ground off that foot to lay it in or to shoot it, correct?
Yeah, so yeah, you could leap off your pivot foot and it's not a travel. And that's basically what I'm doing with my step through, is I'm stepping through, my pivot foot's coming up, but I'm letting go of the ball before my pivot foot comes down. It just looks like because I'm going from here all the way to here, it just looks like a big step, and they're like, oh, he had 3 steps. And so anyhow, I always argue with officials. Whenever they do that, first time out or halftime, I'm like going over there, now why did you call that foul? One thing you'll notice about high school officials, they love to argue rules. And just, it's like a club, and they just like argue things back and forth, like scripture bashers, I guess. Okay, let's talk about, this is a good one, because this is where you get a lot of contact. Hey, go ahead and come here a minute. So guard me. So you have 2 guys, posting up. You know, and you're standing here watching and saying, okay, who's at fault here? Somebody's putting, both people are pushing each other. You know, there's usually a lot of force, like right here. And so what do you watch for? So the first thing you're going to watch for is who displaces who. So if I'm bigger than him, you know, and I just kind of like go like this, you know, that's a charge or player-controlled foul, so it's going to be an offensive foul. If he's trying to push me out, and he does that, then it's a foul on him. So who moves who? If it's just a little bit, you really wouldn't call it, because you know you can hold your spot, and so you can get some forces that stay there. You're just watching for who moves on that. And then the other part is, so now he has to worry about 3 seconds. So I'm posting up here. Some players think you can just go like this, and when your 3 seconds starts over again. But it's a vertical plane for the key, and you have to clear. You don't have to touch the ground, but you have to at least clear to go back. So that would be like you have to sometimes, there's a rule called advantage, disadvantage. Did somebody really gain an advantage in a certain play? Like if you had a young man who's kind of not very good at basketball, and he's kind of standing here, he's in the key, and technically it's 3 second violation. I wouldn't call it here. But if for some reason he was here and it was giving him an advantage and he was a good player and he kind of knew what he was doing, he's like, he's camping out there, he should know better, then you would call that. So those are the two main things you're going to watch for. The pushing, who displaces, and then you're going to watch the defense. If he gets the ball and he makes a move, the biggest thing you're going to watch is what does the defense do? You know, what's his hands doing? You know, if he stops and he's vertical, is he like this? Does he go forward for the jump? So a lot of times, you'll see a big guy jump. He totally gets the ball. It gets like all ball, but he's going forward and his body slams into the shooter. And, you know, and you call the foul and everybody's like, no, that wasn't a foul. He got all ball. Yeah, all ball and his whole body, you know. So if you just know what to watch for, you know, you're watching that body contact, you're watching the arm. That makes it a whole lot easier. And especially as new referees, even if you've been doing it a while, it's easy for people to get in the back of your head. You know, and sometimes you may question your own call. Oh, was that really a good call? But if you know you made a good call, you don't care what anybody thinks. You're just like, I made the right call. This is the game.
What about incidental touching? I mean, there's always going to be touching. I'm not one to call touching. I mean, I'm looking for a foul. That's what I'm looking for. What's your thought?
Yeah. Let's talk about some of that. So there is, go ahead and come here again. So you'll see this a lot, and this came out as a point of emphasis in 2014, 2015. It's called arm bar extended. So if I'm guarding him and my arm's out, it's a foul. If it's in and it's kind of like this, it's okay. Whenever it's extended, if my hand's on his hip and I'm kind of right in there, it's a foul. If I ever put 2 hands on him, it's an automatic foul. It's just like 2 hands are there, boom, you call it.
And are these high school, college rules, or are they all the same? Where
High
do we
school
get
rules.
our rules?
Yeah, high school rules is kind of what we go by. College is pretty close, but NBA, and if you watch NBA after studying the rules in high school, you'll just kind of laugh at many of the NBA rules. You know, 3 steps, 4 steps.
Gathering the basketball.
What's that?
It's called gathering the basketball.
Gathering the basketball. You'll see one up here. So come up here. So if he's dribbling the ball and he's going this way, you know, hand checking. Sometimes if it just touches and it comes off for just a split second, then it's okay. You don't really know if he's just touching or if he's actually slowing the player down. Because, you know, I kind of run around a lot, and whenever somebody holds me, it's like, oh, it's so frustrating because I'm putting all this old man energy into it, and people just go like this and slow me down. So hand check, arm bar. Here's the other one that's, all you have to do is watch for it. It's really easy. It's an arm bar extended also, but it's just inside the waist here. So if he's going, I just kind of like this. It doesn't look bad. Almost it's sometimes hard to see. But you see that, and it's just like, it's definitely a restriction, and so you just call that.
It's got deacons written all over it.
Got what?
Deacons written all over that.
That's right. Let's see.
So when do you know the difference between someone charging or if somebody's feet are not set?
Good question. That is the hardest call in basketball. Let's talk about that. So let's do it right here because this happens right here. So if the defender, it's called establishing legal guarding position. So let's say like I'm guarding him and I square up to him and both of my feet are at some point they hit the floor at the same time. So it's like I guarded up, I'm in guarding position. That gives me a lot more leniency to get the charge. So if he makes a move this way, and I'm still moving, but he hits me dead center, it's a charge. If I never establish legal guarding position and I just jump in front of him and I'm moving and he hits me, then it's a block. So defenders want to establish a guarding position to get more leniency with that. But then there's the tricky one of, here's the one that always bothers me, and I sometimes still wonder which is the best call. The guy's standing here all day long, the guy drives around, hits him with the shoulder, he's just standing here, hits his shoulder, hits him pretty good, knocks him down. It's like, well, he was there, it shouldn't really be called. But 9 out of 10 times, high school refs will call a block. So the call you would either make would be a block, or you just say no call. You just wouldn't call anything. You decide, offender got enough past him that it's okay. If it felt like pretty solid contact, here, normally you're looking for if the contact's in the middle section and he's there, that it's pretty easy that way. If he catches the shoulder, if it's real solid and he was there, then you'd call it. If it's kind of a brush, but the guy's like, oh, the old guys always yell, oh.
You mean you'd call a charge or a block?
Well, it depends which one. If he barely, you'd call a block or let it go. A lot of times you're just letting them play a little bit more on those brushes that go through. It's kind of frustrating for both players. The one guy said, hey, he hit me, and the other guy says, hey, he hit me. But again, on that play, what are you going to watch for? First, you're going to watch, is the player get there in time as the guy is moving? Is he there in good position when the contact was made? Who initiated the contact? So if he gets there and then he creates the contact, then it's a charge. If he's kind of got the edge, then I made the contact. And part of this is really developing an eye. And you'll have 5 refs call it 5 different ways, especially when they're close. And the safe thing that refs always do, block. That's the safe thing. It's a block on the side, So if you're kind of hesitant, just call a block. But some are really obvious. The guy goes right here. Wham! He gets run over by the guy driving to the hoop. Those ones are easy. Any other questions on that?
Not on the charge, but when the basketball goes over the hoop. So if it goes over the hoop, hits the poles, that's out of bounds.
Yeah.
Right? If it goes over and doesn't hit any of the poles or anything, is it still out?
It is out of bounds. If it goes over the backboard, it's out of bounds.
But if it hits the side, like if they're shooting from there and it just hits the side,
It's in,
that's in.
unless it hits the bracket.
Okay.
Underneath is in, the sides are in, the top is in.
Oh.
Um,
It's just if it goes all the way over.
yeah, sometimes they'll go up and they'll kind of roll there. And,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think any of that.
What about, inevitably it happens with younger kids when they airball it, and then you have a kid that airballs it and then gets his own rebound.
yeah, good question.
Everyone wants to call it a travel.
Oh, that is a good question.
So if you determine it is a real shot, it's not a travel. So actually I had that in my city league last night. The guy shot like about from here and it was a total airball and he just happened to get his rebound. The rest let it go because If it's considered a real shot, then you can get your own rebound. If it doesn't hit anything. Kicking, let's talk about kicking since that crossed my mind. Kicking is intentional as you deem it to be. So a lot of times people say, oh, my foot was on the ground, but if you kind of go like that or something, or oh, it has to be below the knee, it's any part of your leg, and it's intentional. So if the guy's driving and he does a behind the back pass and it kind of hits the other guy's leg and he really couldn't defend that, then it's not a kick. It has to be intentional as you determine. It's your opinion as in whether he did it on purpose or not.
So even if the foot never leaves the ground, if you lean into it, but what if you can tell the defender knows it's coming, it doesn't move out of the way?
It's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, if he's just standing there and boom, it hits him, nothing.
But if he moves, even if he has his foot on the ground, it's still a violation. Yeah, it's any part of the leg, you said? Not, I thought it was just.
It's any part of the leg, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Usually it's from here down, but it is the whole leg. So if it hit you there, you lifted your leg up and it just happened to hit you.
So there is a 5-second rule if you are being guarded on holding the ball.
Yeah, that's a good. You'll see that at the end of the game with the ball. So you technically, if you did it exactly to the 100th of a second, you could hold the ball for 5 seconds or 15 seconds. So I got the pass. I'm closely guarded, which is approximately 6 feet away. So you kind of just have to determine what you think 6 feet away. Let's see, we'll go sideways so you can. To me, that's about 6 feet away that he's guarding me. And so when someone's trying to run the clock down, you want to just step within. You look at the ref and see if he's counting. If he's not counting, he's not counting. Hey, 5 seconds. Get him to start counting. So he's within 6 feet. I can hold it for technically 5 seconds, just under 5 seconds. The guy's counting. Boom. He gets to 4. I start dribbling. He's still staying on me. I can you switch hands. So you're counting with the first 5, and then when it changes, you start over with the other hand. You're counting, and then I can stop my dribble, and I get another 5. So technically 15.
So you can only be in one position for 5 though, like dribbling or.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Now, if I go like this, I'm dribbling, he's guarding me, and then I break that 6 feet, and then he comes back, you start over. And every time you start over, you switch hands, counting. And then, if another player, so he's guarding me, another player comes up, and then I keep going, so this new player starts guarding me, but it stayed continuous, you keep the 5 seconds going.
So if they go over the 5 seconds, what's the call?
It's just 5 seconds, it's a violation.
It goes to the other team?
Yeah, it goes the other way. But once he makes a move towards the hoop, then you just quit counting.
So it's just pretty much to prevent wasting time, essentially.
Yeah, just a good player dribbling out the clock.
Yeah. Okay.
And stuff. Now that brings us to the 3 seconds in the key. So you'll hear people yell all the time, 3 seconds. Every time the shot goes up, the clock the 3 seconds restarts. So you have a big guy putting up the ball and he can't seem to make it, and people 3 seconds, 3 seconds. But every time there's a shot goes up, then the 3 seconds starts over. And
For everyone, not just the shooter, right?
or offense, only offense.
Okay.
Not just a shooter, any offensive player, not defense.
Backcourt violations.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Alright.
Backcourt's a good one. Let's do it on this line here. So, I'll tell you the rule, and then you tell me whether it's backcourt or not. So basically, all 3 points have to be across the line, both feet and the ball. So if somebody's coming, they get guarded, they go back.
No.
Good, nice. Or like this. Whoa, I better watch out. Good, very good. So that's kind of what you're watching for is all 3 points in the front court. Now-
How about if you straddle the line going side to side? Like one foot's on one side and the other.
That's okay.
That's okay,
Yeah.
good.
So like if like you picked up that foot, yeah.
Yeah.
Ron, is it any point of your foot being over? Or does it have to be the entire foot? Like if you're on the line, if,
Like that?
yeah,
Yeah, it has to clear all the way.
all the way clear.
It's like
Okay.
the
Yeah.
plane.
Now here's an interesting rule. So this happens all the time. The ball gets tipped by the defender, and if it gets tipped back there, the offense can just run back and get it, because it's tipped by the defender. But say it's tipped by the defender, and in the process, the offense tips it, trying to get it, and he just like tips it, and then it goes back, and then he gets it.
It's okay.
Violation.
I have no idea.
He's not in possession.
It's on
of it.
possession.
You still have team control, so it is a backcourt because the offensive player was the last one to tip it, even if he just like barely. You would think, oh, they lost control, so it shouldn't be a backcourt. And it's not if the defender's the last one to touch it, but if the offense touches it and then goes and gets it, then it's a backcourt. That's a big one you'll see.
So
People
like,
get wrong.
it's like possession or no possession, like, so if it's obviously like a mishandled pass and it goes behind the line, that's a backcourt if they go back and get it.
If they get it,
If
yeah.
slides through his hands. But even on like a tip ball, so like if the defender tips it away, if they go for it and tip it again, still a backcourt, even if they.
If they tip it in the front court and then go get it in the back court.
Yeah,
Okay. Yep. And then you have this, say the guy's coming, the guy's in the front court with the ball, and he's in under trouble, so he goes to pass it to me. And he knows I gotta be in the front court, so he jumps in the air, catches it, and then lands.
Violation.
Huh?
Violation. First touch.
Very good. So you have to, before you can touch the ball, you have to have both feet in the court before you can catch it.
What if you run out of bounds here and catch the ball back in and shoot it? Can you?
That's a really good question. You don't see this called very often, but high school refs who know the rule will call it. Offense cannot intentionally run out of bounds. Or to get around the screen or whatever. You can't just like, oh, I'm just going to go here. No, I'm sneaking in the back. You can't. So it's technically a violation.
It's a violation just because you ran out, not because it's like because you sent out a thing that was like, it's not football. You can be the first person to touch the ball even if you stepped out, right?
Yeah, as long as you establish yourself back in. Is that what you mean?
Okay, but the violation is like you ran out of bounds.
You intentionally ran out of
Okay.
bounds. Now, if you're making a layup, and your momentum carries you out,
Yeah.
you would never call that.
Okay.
That's not the purpose of it.
Gotcha.
I don't know exactly why the purpose is. Maybe to show you can't sneak out of bounds and then sneak back
Yeah.
in. I guess that's the reason. I probably wouldn't call it unless it was pretty obvious. If the guy just kind of ended up here, I wouldn't call him out of bounds. But if he made a big round thing, you're going to get flack. If you make that call, you're going to get flack. Because people don't know that rule, and they're like, what? No way. Oh, call them both ways. You always hear that one. Call them both ways. Come on. It's like, I don't care who wins. I just happen to see it that way and miss that one. Okay, free throw. So, go ahead and line up. So, the trail official is going to be closest to the table. And I'm going to end up over here. The league official will end up over here after he throws the ball in. So you kind of come up. We got two shots. And then you're just going to kind of step away, let him shoot. Now, what can these players do during a shot? Can they do anything during a shot to try to distract the shooter?
No.
Yeah, they got to stay in their blocks technically, and if they go to shoot, you can kind of raise your hands kind of fast, like you're gonna guard block the guy out. But you can't say anything. But here's the thing: you can do that, but if the ball goes in, nothing happens. So Or if I lane violate and the ball goes in, then nothing happens because it went in. So as the official, either you or the top one, you see the lane violation or you see the distracting of the shooter, you raise your hand like this, you pay attention, oh, the ball went in, okay, you don't call anything, you just go. If it doesn't go in, then you call it, disconcerting the shooter, number 12, reshoot. Or lane violation, reshoot. Or lane violation, going the other way. So if the offense, lane violates. So the people in the blocks, the players in the blocks, can cross the plane when he releases the ball. When he lets go, they can go in. He cannot do it until it hits the rim, and any player back here can't cross the line until it hits the rim also. The players back here off the key have to be behind the three-point line, and then the free throw line extended. So they can stand here and be fine until it hits the rim, and then they can cross. But they can't go, down here. Once the player has the ball, sometimes you'll see late players, like, he has the ball getting ready to shoot, oh, I forgot. It's a lane violation if he misses. If he makes it, then you don't call it. Yeah, depending on the situation, what I made the mistake before when I've done it is, I just got the ball, okay, 2 shots, and just passed it to him right away, and didn't even give the players time to really get there, so players come in late, and it was really my fault, because I didn't even give them a second or two to do it. So if you make a mistake like that, just let it go, or say, here, give me the ball back, okay, go ahead,
So if the defense does make a lane violation and does not go in, you just give them their whatever shot they had back? Like, they just take another shot?
Yeah, they do another shot, reshoot that.
Okay, and if it's offensive line violation, they just take it out?
The other team would take it out, yeah.
Okay.
And on a make, and the shooting team has a violation, because on the make, he said you don't do anything, but if it's the shooting team that does the violation, would you wave the shot off?
You would. So say like they lane violated, like went in too early to block out to try to get the rebound, and it goes in, no shot, lane violation, 12, going the other way.
You just as a double check, you said if you're down, they can move after the ball's released, but everyone up top can't move until the ball hits the rim.
They can move, they just can't cross the line.
Okay. So they can't cross the line, but for the people down low, as soon as the ball's released, they can get in and start
Walking out and trying for a rebound. So that always makes another one. What do you watch for? Because you'll see guys kind of pushing, right? Trying to get the rebound. Okay, come here. Throw the ball away. So you're here. Okay, so technically, as the rule is specified, I can't lean I can't lean past this vertical plane, technically. And I can't put my hands over here. And I can't put my hands to the other guy. I got to stay within my block, within, I think, I got to be within 3 feet. So I just got to have a foot here if I wanted to stand back. So technically that's the vertical planes that you're not supposed to violate. But they don't call it if you're like barely, your hand goes right here. They're not going to call that. They just never do. But I would give them a warning. Like if I saw this guy like here, it's like, stay in your block, stay in your block. I would give them a quick warning, and if it looked like it made a difference, maybe I would call the lane violation. But again, it's one of those things, if you know what you look for, like you're standing here and you look at the guys, and you'll see guys, they think they can do this, they're like, you'll see them like totally pushing the guy before he even has the ball, and then it's easy. And if it's early, you can like give them a warning, play it by ear.
So I have a
As soon as
question.
the ball's out of his hands, then you're welcome to go past the
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have a question. The men obviously know a little bit more rules and stuff, but when you're talking like deacons who've never played before, teachers even, some priests, where do you draw the line? Like, I know I did young women's for a while, and they had no idea. Like, they had no
Oh,
clue.
yeah.
like what a travel was or double dribble, and if I called every single thing, we would never play.
I know.
So I'm just wondering, like, for the young men, especially the younger young men, at what point do you officiate, and at what point are you just teaching them?
The rules are dumbed down, and then it's kind of like the hardest games to ref are young women's games, because you'll let one young woman go like this, the next one's going like this. So when you decide that's a travel.
Yeah, exactly.
So usually you'll dumb it down. You'll give them a couple little steps, for young men and women. But if they start taking 2 or 3, then you got to call it, because you need them to learn that that's an obvious you can't do. And then you'll see a lot of double dribbles, and you're like, do I call the first one or do I call the 5th one? But the main thing is, when you're doing it with that, is to be consistent. If you're going to call, a 2-step travel on, then you just want to stay consistent with that. Because it's easy, especially as the game goes on, you get tired. Your brain gets tired of watching this game, and you start letting stuff go. And then young women are really physical. I mean, they just start getting in there because they're allowed to. And so you just want to stay consistent on that. But on finishing up with actually, back to your point, some young men are really good. They just played a lot of basketball. I will tend to ref them a little harder than I will like a basketball player, a young man who's not very good. I'll let them maybe travel a teeny bit, and the other one I wouldn't let travel at all.
Yeah.
So we're going in so what do you think is the first thing you're going to watch for? The ball shot, I'm going to block this guy out. What's probably going to be the first thing you're going to watch for in this position?
Going over the top of you.
Going over the back. Now, so what are you going to watch for? The ball hits the red and it goes back, and I jump back, and he's standing there. Maybe he jumps up, but he jumps straight up, and I'm jumping back to get the ball. What do you think?
Who's moving who?
What's that?
Who's moving who?
Very good. But it's deceptive. When you see somebody jump up and go like this, and this guy jumps up, it looks like he's over the back. But if you know what you're watching for in that scenario, you're like, oh, this guy jumped this way. Oh, easy. If it's severe enough, then you'd call the foul on the front guy. And that would be fair. You'll get complaints on it, but, you could just say you jumped backwards. Also, the guy coming behind, and all you have to do is watch what he's doing, is watching verticality of the bodies, because you'll see the back guy coming, jumping, trying to get the rebound, and so he's trying to get past the player, and so he's going to push the guy in the front, you're going to hit his back. And if you're just watching bodies, the whole view of bodies, you're like, oh, what just happened? I know something happened. What just happened? Somebody ended up on the ground. But focus on specifically what you're watching there, and then that will make a big difference. Okay. Any other specific questions?
Ron, you had, I think in that email, you had some things about common things that people call that are not really a call.
Oh, good.
Like,
that's really good.
Like reach in.
Referees study the rules.
Uh-huh.
They love to just discuss these with people and debate them back and forth. Maybe I don't have any in this paper. Is it on that one?
Might have.
25 misunderstood high school rules. Let me see if I got through the other stuff, and then we'll hit that. Okay, let's hit the real quick. The player driving to the basket. What are you going to watch for? So I'm driving to the basket. I got the defender on me. Boom, boom. What do you think? What are 2 things you're going to watch for?
First, the defender planted solid, holding his ground.
Yeah, but not necessarily. He doesn't have to be. If he's in position, he doesn't have to be not moving, because you really can't guard not moving. But so first thing you do is you anticipate the play. You're there. The guy's driving. Oh, okay, I know this play. I know what's probably gonna happen. Not that I know it's gonna be a foul. I know this guy's driving this way really fast, so I know I'm anticipating some contact. Boom, and not all contact's bad, but what am I watching for? Firstly, I'm gonna try to angle myself to see if I can get in a little better position. If I'm standing exactly right there, and everything's happening right here, it's gonna be really hard to see what happened. So hopefully you have your partner right here that has a better angle to see that. Or maybe you're here and your partner's there, and your partner's blocked out. It's your partner's area, but you know he's blocked out because he can't see through the body. And so you're watching, okay, what's happening here on this drag? So there's basically two things you watch in general: the arms and the body contact. Does he move forward into the defender? Does the defender, because you'll see this all the time, the defender goes and then he makes a quick move to get that nice, easy layup. Does this guy have good enough position so if he makes this move, it would be technically a charge, which is almost never called, unless you were just standing there. Or he goes up, is there any contact? You guys watched the Jazz game last night?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he goes up like this. What's he do? He hits the wrist. Gobert hits his wrist. There's no call. They let it go. They don't review it. One team's complaining, the other team's celebrating. Technically, it was a foul, right? He hit his wrist as he's going up, and technically should have been called. But sometimes there's so much action, you just can't see everything. Whether they did or not, I don't know, but they didn't call it.
Just as a double check on that one, you said you're watching obviously the body of the defender for sure, even the person on offense. You said arms as well, so obviously like if the person with the ball is coming down the court going for layup, they obviously can't extend that arm to push the guy to get the layup, right? That's at that point you'd call the foul, correct?
Very good point. Very good point. And that's one that's hard to miss, especially when you have, guys that are, good jump shooters. They kind of go and they jump back and go like that. They push off as they're jumping back. And so that's a good point is, you're just watching, does he extend his arm out on that move for that? And the same thing can be here too. Now there's a difference between extending and pushing versus kind of just holding your arm, your guarding arm. And that's an immediate rejection. Kind of a louder guarding arm. As long as you don't extend it. Then you have an intentional foul, which is, an intentional foul is you do something on purpose, kind of like a guy's going for a layup, and instead of planking a play on the person or the ball, you grab a shirt. Or you do something intentional to cause the foul that isn't making a basketball play on the ball. When at the end of the game and they're trying to foul, everybody's yelling foul to stop the clock and get them shooting one-on-one. Somebody will run up and they'll just go and grab the guy's shirt. And that's an intentional foul, which is 2 shots and the ball, so it didn't really help you at all. But many times refs won't call it. High school refs will, just because they know the rule. So on that, you're going to want to, did they make at least an attempt to make a play on the ball or a play to defend the guy to cause the foul versus, just grabbing him or something?
So you're saying that if it's at the end of the game and they make a play on the ball but wanting to foul the player, stop the clock, get the shots, that's when the opposing team gets the ball and gets a chance to go back down. But if it's not, you said like a basketball play, something that's not intentionally towards the ball, that's when the team getting fouled gets the ball back after the free
Yeah,
throws.
2 shots and the ball.
Where do you get the ball after that? Like if you take free throws and then you get the ball, where do you take it?
It's closest to the spot of where the incident happened.
Oh. Even if it was like down here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the same with like a jump ball or something that stops the clock. It's always timeout or anything. It's right where you're, the closest spot to it. So usually if it's about kind of like down this way, that area would go underneath and both sides would be underneath, or then you would take it along the side, whatever's closest. Now here's a habit to get into, because this happens. It's a team, say a basket's made, and the team who just made the basket calls a timeout. Sometimes we're in the habit of the team who calls the timeout gets the ball because you're used to them having possession when they get the ball. So what you want to do is when somebody calls timeout, you'll say blue timeout, blue ball right here, or white ball right here. So you kind of make that distinction because by verbally saying it, and then you know your partner hears you, and you know what's going to happen. It's so easy to like, oh shoot, where was that timeout? Who called that timeout? You know, and whose ball is it? And so it's always good to just say white ball on the side or whatever. Elbows. So the rule about elbows is the thing you're going to watch for is if the shoulders move with the pivot, then you won't really call anything unless his elbows are like out like this and he moves and creates contact, then it would probably just be a violation, a foul. It would just be a foul on him. But if his shoulders move without his hips moving, or not moving with his hips, you know, where it's like, you know.
Carl Malone style.
Yeah. If there's no contact made, it's just a foul. Actually, no, it's just a violation. If there's no contact and you see this move, it's just a violation. The other team gets the ball. But if there's contact, if it's just not killer contact, then you'd call a foul if it's, or intentional foul. And
Wait,
if
if
it's
there's
like
no
hard
contact?
contact,
You can call a violation if there's no contact?
because it's just it's like an illegal move to have your elbows move but no contact. It's,
Really?
yeah.
It's like
I feel like
intimidation in a way.
that seems.
So violation or foul, the ball's turned over. It just depends on the foul and whether there's shots or it's just a turnover, correct?
Yeah, usually it's a foul and turnover. You don't shoot shots on, if you're in the bonus, you don't shoot shots on the offensive fouls. So you just get the ball and let them go the other way.
For a flagrant, intentional, technical, all of them, 2 free throws, count the ball?
Yeah.
Okay.
No matter how many fouls they currently have. That's always what you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you go in the order. Say a team's in the bonus, the guy gets fouled, the defender gets really upset, slaps the ball down or something after the whistle's blown, so he gets a technical. You do things in the order that it happens. So I had this in my game last night. Same exact thing happened. So our guy got to shoot 1-and-1, he made both of them, and then he got to shoot his technical shots, and he made one of those, and then we got the ball on the side. So we got 5 points in that.
So how does that work for the one-on-one? If the technical free throws are to follow?
If he misses the first,
Yeah,
then you just don't get the second.
okay. So on the one-on-ones in that scenario, no one was lined up on the
Yeah,
blocks.
nobody's there.
But I'm just thinking
No
more
rebounds.
technical outside of like a shooting foul or something like that. They just get one shot on the other side, then not, or they get 2. So if there's a technical call for some reason, like not including like an on the ball foul, so maybe just like some crazy unsportsmanlike stuff, which probably won't necessarily happen a whole lot, but like, is that just 1 shot or is that 2? On the
If it's a technical, always 2.
Always 2.
Always 2 and the ball. And then your table should tell you when there's 7 fouls, then you'll be shooting 1-on-1 if it's not a shooting foul, and then shooting 2 when it hits 10. Oh, here's a good point. This is really good to talk about. When to kick somebody out, when to give them a technical for saying something to you. That's a terrible call, ref. You'll hear that.
Thank you.
So the more you let go, the worse it's going to get. It's kind of like your kids. The more you let your kids get away with, the more they're going to go. They're going to keep pushing you until you break, and then you want to drive off a cliff yourself. Usually most refs will give you a warning, like no more. just play ball, first warning. Maybe you don't even say first warning, you say, just play ball, I don't wanna hear any more. And then you'll hear some more, and you'll kind of hear chatter, you know, well, you've all played, so you kind of know. And so at what point, and actually, it's funny, last night was like perfect scenario. The game before our game, the players kept jabbering it, and they kept getting called, and they got 2 players kicked out because they kept yelling at the refs about how bad a call that was, and then they wouldn't shut up, so the refs kicked them out. They were high school refs, and they knew what they were doing, and so they didn't. They were upset, but I was watching it going, yeah, get them. I hate punk guys, you know, feel like they gotta yell at the refs and stuff.
And when they're ejected, can they sit on the bench or do they have to leave the court?
Technically, they're supposed to leave, because then they can be all riled up and get some guys going. They're supposed to leave.
Okay.
So, okay, so, do you guys, who's usually here to run the things? You're here to run to keep score. So you kind of need to know who the administrator is. So, if you got some bad audience people who keep chattering, and you know, you can warn them, quit making rude comments. You give them a warning. If they keep it up, you can either give them another warning and say, I'll ask you to leave. You'll have to leave if you keep it up. If you get to the point where you're going to kick them out, you're not the one who's supposed to kick them out. The administrative official is the one who's supposed to do it. So, you go to the table, whoever the official is. So sometimes you have a high councilman who's hanging out, you know, during the games. You have him do it. Or you do it. And so what you do, it's really not that hard. You say, the refs are asking you to be removed from the building. You have 2 minutes or your team will forfeit. And that's all you have to say. And then you just wait, and they'll usually leave. And it's the same with the player. If a player's just like upset, you say, you have 2 minutes to leave. I think they only give them a minute. You have a minute to leave, and then they don't want the team to forfeit, so they'll usually leave like that. Coaches, parents. When I did some high school ball, players were great. Never had any problem with players. It was the coaches and parents. Coaches are like, before the game, they come shake your hand. Oh, thank you so much, because you know you don't make very much, and you're spending your 3 hours there helping doing this game. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. That ball goes up on the toss. They turn into these beasts. You know, like, oh, that one. And then you have to learn how to handle coaches and when to, like, you know, bring down the hammer on them, when to warn them, stuff like that. That gets a little tricky. But in general, nobody should say anything rude to another player. Directly rude. You know, if you make a call and they're like, oh, you know, you hear them grunt a little bit, like, oh, that was terrible. You know, they kind of say it like it. But they come to your face and that was a terrible call. That's immediate technical. You can't just let somebody very boldly come up to you and say, that was terrible. You know, yeah. You gotta have, you're in control of the game. Whatever you let go is going to come back to haunt you, because that's the way basketball is. That's the way people are.
So, Ron, as an administrator, if we hear something going, do we have the right, you know, just to override?
Oh,
it and
absolutely.
say,
Absolutely.
okay, we're done here. Goodbye.
You could say that, yeah, you could do it that fast, or you can give them warning. You could stop, you know, have them buzz it and stop it, come out and talk to the players, say, okay, this is your only warning. Let's settle it down and play ball. Quit talking. Or if it's the parents, you know, you'd be the one to make sure you tell them. But yeah, the table, you kind of work together with the refs. In high school, it's a little different. The referees are kind of responsible to tell the administrator to do it. But kind of church ball, you're all working together. And sometimes the referees are focused on the court and they're not really hearing some of the audience or parents being rude or saying things. And if you happen to hear that, you need to go sit down by them and say, you know, brother, would you please, you know, not make these rude comments, or I'll have to ask you to leave. And that usually settles down most people. But occasionally, you know.
I had a game where 2 teams were getting into it, and I just canceled the game, told them to leave. It's over.
Yeah, you can definitely
was
do
out of
that.
control.
Always, that way, you know, definitely you don't want that to be your first option, you know, because I always looked at church ball as it's an opportunity
There's only
to
10
learn to
seconds
control
left
our
or something.
emotions, you know, under competitive situations. I've had so many guys I've worked with that over like a year or so were really heated, hot individuals. And after working with them, kicking them out a few times and working with them, they learned to settle down. They learned to just like walk away and just settle down. So they learned to control their emotions. So I kind of see church ball as that opportunity to grow in that area. And so just canceling the game immediately, I don't know if it would be, you
It
know,
was 10 seconds
if it's
left.
something big, you know,
Okay,
if
let
it's
it
like
go.
really bad, yeah, definitely do that.
Shane was hungry.
I had to get out. I had to get out of there.
You guys are taking too long.
Yeah, you always have that option. You know, don't be afraid to do it if you have to, because we don't want the opposite thing happening that's of what's supposed to happen. But, kind of good questions.
So do you go up, I mean, church ball is different than high school, because all the time when someone, a ref calls a thing, you always hear, come on. I mean, would you call something like that on them right away, or would you?
You give them a warning. You give them a warning. And if it's just kind of like, oh, shoot, come on. You know, they're just kind of running, you know. I wouldn't worry about that. But if it gets a little more vocal, and I've many times, you know, stopped the game, go between both teams and say, I don't care who wins this game. Some calls I see, some I don't. I call them as I see it. And that's what you're going to get. And don't, if I miss it, so what? That's just part of the game. If I call it and you didn't foul, well, that's what I saw, you know. You just tell them it's kind of like just a down-to-earth, you know, it's just part of the game. You'll notice some teams that are quick and they drive a lot, they're going to get a ton of fouls called for them, you know, because they're driving a lot. But what happens, they may not, because there's so much crowded in the key that they may be getting hacked as they're going up, but it's hard to see because there's so many bodies in the way. And then you'll have, and so they won't get that many calls, or maybe they will get a bunch of calls because they're real physical. It can go either way. And then you'll have, you know, someone in the open court, you know, say you just missed a big foul in the middle because there were so many people, and the other guy's pulling down, and the guy hand checks him, and so you call the foul. They're like, oh, ticky-tacky, call it both ways, you know. So some fouls are easy to see because they're in the open court, and then some are tricky. And it's just the nature of basketball. It's frustrating. I always thought it'd be cool to have a ref kind of suspended up, overlooking the court, you know, like this float, you know, back and forth, and just have like the perfect view of everything.
Okay,
Also-
so that's when you invite them to come ref. Just send them my way and be like, hey, you can ref the next game if you want,
Yeah,
because we
exactly.
always need more refs.
You want to come show us how to do it?
Yeah, exactly.
In our
We
state,
did invite somebody last year who was making a fuss. I invited him to come ref, and he said he doesn't ref, and I was like, well, then stop talking to my refs. So,
I've had, like, we will, like, ref after we play, or sometimes I'll ref before I play, and so I'll ref a game, and then we have to get players to stay in ref from that game. And I was like, hey, we need a couple refs, you know, from each, ref from each team, and if you want to get me back, stay in ref, and, because I'm playing, and, you know, you didn't like my calls. But the biggest thing is just kind of like, you don't, it seems like you can't care what anybody thinks. You know, whether you make a good call or a bad call, you can't care whether the players think, what the spectators think. You just make the best call you can and go with it. And just stay focused on, hey, this is what I saw, this is what I'm calling. Even if it is wrong, you know, that's just part of it. But when you start getting it in your head, you start questioning yourself, like, yeah, maybe it wasn't a foul. But then you start doubting yourself, and you start thinking, thinking, oh, I missed that call, maybe I should miss one down here, and then things just get more physical. Makeup calls, yeah, that was a makeup call. Yeah, you've heard
Even that
before.
call count out. 8 fouls on these guys and 2 on that. Come on.
If it is 10:15, I can run through these missed concepts, or if you need to go, you can go. But it's up to you, but I'll run through them. Hey, see you later. Sometimes they're just fun to talk about. If you're in the ref mode, they're fun to talk about. If you're just here obligated, then you definitely want to go.
Sorry, I'm gonna put a thing out there. So we have, most of the games covered for this week. Come out here, so you can, like, see people. So we have everything covered except for 7:30 and 8:30 on Thursday, right? Where's Kyle? Yeah.
Yep.
Except for 7:30 and 8:30. So, we need somebody. We need 2 people per team, per game. So, this, Kyle, do you wanna raise your hand in case people don't? This is our head ref, so he coordinates everything and makes sure that we always have refs. So just talk to him if you decide to leave, just go talk to him, cause we need 2 more refs, or no, 4 more refs. That's all, okay, you can continue.
Cool. Okay, let's try to hit these real fast. There is no 3-second count between the release of a shot and the control of a rebound. So, yeah, no 3-second. A player can go out of bounds and return inbounds and be the first to touch the ball, as long as he establishes his 2 feet. Even if he like tips it, ends up out of bounds, nobody's around, comes in, establishes, kick the ball. You could do that. I've had arguments with people on that one. There's no such thing as over the back. So part of knowing the terms, and over the back isn't over the back, it's either a push or a block or a hold. That's the same with the reach.
There's not.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I've had people
Got
call
over
for
the
over
back.
back.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And there's no such a thing as reaching also. There's no call as a reach. It's either a hold or a block. We didn't talk about that. That's a good call to talk about real fast. So, okay, he has the ball. What are the things, he's going that way, but we're not gonna drill. What are the things I want to watch for as the defender? So I'm focusing on the defender, right? What am I going to watch for? What?
Contact,
Contact, body,
body and hands.
and arm, right? And so some people are really good at, tapping that ball out. Some people aren't so good. So the things that you're going to watch is, so if the ball's on that side of his body, because he's dribbling that side, I got to go all the way across. And if I can do it good enough, it's not a foul if I'm not going to run into him. And some people are really good and they got long arms. But you're going to watch, and sometimes it's hard, and maybe the arm is clean, but then he kind of bumps into him this way, and he may not displace him, so it may not see like, oh, he really ran into him, but you're going to watch for that contact there, the arm coming across, and then you'll see this one from behind. Some people are really good at this. So if you're watching for it, it's easy. If he wraps around the body and you can see him hit the body, it's easy. Or he hits the arm, it's easy. But if you're not watching for it, you don't see it at all. Because it's really a quick boom and not a lot of physical contact. But a lot of times it's a foul.
So you said it's either a block or a hold in that instance?
Yeah, so like if I'm going here, this would be a hold. Because I'm like holding him in a way, impeding his progress. Or it's usually a hold, almost 99% of the time it's a hold. But I guess it could be a block if, I got him more with my body. Or it could be a push.
So even a swipe on the arm is called a hold?
Would be illegal use of hands, actually. Okay. Yeah, illegal use of hands. Yeah. And that one's kind of hard too because, we're talking about the hand or the wrist, hand's part of the ball, the wrist is. Okay. Things are going really fast.
Can you guys be responsible for locking? We're locking everything.
We're not responsible people, so I wouldn't care.
We're leaving, and
Yes.
we're the last ones here. You guys will be the last ones.
We got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, this is good. Okay, so this one happens a lot. The guy, he goes to pass. Oh, it slips out of his hand. Slips out of his hand. He goes and gets it. Oh, double dribble. Allowed a fumble, a muff or a fumble. But if I've already used up my dribble and I muff it, I don't start dribbling, or it'll be double dribbles. So you're allowed to drop it accidentally and then get it. Okay. It is impossible for a player to travel while dribbling. So dribbling, so we'll talk about dribbling. Sometimes you'll hear people say, whoa, it's a travel or a carry. A carry, you can dribble as high as you want if your hand doesn't come down to the bottom side of the ball. So you could dribble like this, and sometimes, that may happen. But it's not until you end up here that is a carry. And then, as long as the ball's in motion, you just can't really travel. You can just, but you can carry it. So a lot of times people go to spin, you'll see that hand come underneath. And that's kind of what you're watching for. If it's here, you won't usually call it, but once it breaks that, 4 o'clock on the ball, 4 or 5 o'clock, then it's going to be a carry. You'll see this a lot where the point guard will come up, and he'll have the ball on this side, and he's going to go to the other way, and he'll go, to start going the other way. It almost never gets called, but if it's, so like if you're reffing somebody, if it's in the middle of the field, there's no guarding or anything, and the guy's just bringing it down, and he goes like that, you wouldn't really call it unless he makes a move. So then he goes to make a move. Now it's at a big advantage. You can move that ball so fast and move with it. So usually they won't call it in the middle of the field, but when he starts to make a move, if that makes sense. Kickball must be intentional. We talked about that. It is perfectly legal to rebound your own air ball.
If you deem it a shot.
If you deem it a shot, that's right. It is impossible to travel, dribble, or carry while the ball is a throw-in. I think we talked about that. You're throwing the ball in, you got your 3 feet, if it is a 3-foot one. You can't really travel in. Okay. Now, a ball cannot travel over the backboard. Inbound the defender does not have to give the dribbler a step. As long as legal guarding position has been established, it is up to the dribbler to avoid the contact. Which brings up a good question. So, go ahead and go up here. So you set a screen on somebody. So say I'm guarding the guy here, and you set a normal screen, and I go, boom, if I run him over, it's a foul on me. If I run through the block. If I kind of run into him and then I just start pushing him, I've had that before, playing some big guys. And I would set a screen on him, and he would just walk through me and just keep pushing me, and the ref didn't call anything. I was upset about it. But he also, so say he comes up from there and says it's a blindsided screen. I have to have the opportunity to at least be able to see him. And so if there's a blindsided screen, then it's a foul violation on him, or foul on him. So technically not a blindsided screen. You can't have a blindsided screen unless there is kind of that step, or he could have gotten around it. Okay, let's go to the next one. A 10-second court count continues when the defense deflects or bats the ball. So you got your 10-second count coming up from the back court. So you're counting, the ball's thrown in, they're going up court, you're doing visible count, and you want to get in the habit of kind of making a consistent count. And you're not in a hurry. You're not so let's hurry and get to 10, so we can call it. And so the ball, they just got to get it into the front court on 10, all 3 points, kind of like front court. If there's pressure and the ball gets tipped, it doesn't matter, it's still in team control and it's still counting until the defending team gains possession of the ball. So then you don't count anymore. Moving screens is a violation unless there's contact. Oh, isn't a violation unless there's contact. So, you see moving screens that are frustrating when they don't get called. You just have to be set, squared up, your knees can't be out. Don't watch NBA do this, because, they always get that little bit in there. Basically your legs shouldn't be much wider than your shoulders, so they can't go like this. If they catch their leg, then it's gonna be on the screener. And he's gotta be there before contact's made. If he's jumping there as contact's made, then it's on him.
Ron, what about, so he's setting a screen and you see a lot of guys that want to go up like this or get out like that. How do you call that?
Elbows?
Well, not just elbows, but sometimes they're out and ahead of them. Like
You
you
can kind of
when you
protect,
set a screen,
you can have your arms in
you kind of
front of you.
protect yourself,
But again, if you're extended, you're gonna have that same problem that you're pushing.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that too much, but yeah.
Or they try to hold you out, like with your arm
Yeah,
extended
extended
out.
arm, it could be kind of a holding them in a
Okay.
way. Yeah. I don't know that one really.
Okay. Just
As long as
whoever's
you don't
moving
touch
him.
'em, you can keep moving on the screen to keep annoying them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like, you'll all the time, oh, it's a moving screen. Well, not if you didn't touch him. If there's no contact, so can't call anything. So yeah, that's why you gotta make sure there's contact.
Thing to harass, huh?
That's right.
Because sometimes people will run around the moving screen, they'll try to go around the moving screen, it's like, they'll complain, but make contact with the guy and then you have a chance to maybe get the ball. Okay. Basketball is not a non-contact sport. You hear that, it's a non-contact sport. Intentional contact does occur, and contact which does not create an advantage, disadvantage may be ignored. So there can be contacts, as long as there's not advantage, disadvantage, can be ignored. But, okay. When an airborne shooter commits a player control foul, his successful try for goal cannot be allowed. So say he's running, there's a guy that plants himself in front of him, he jumps in the air, shoots it, the ball goes in, and then he crashes into the guy, no basket. Same in church ball, if the guy, you're not allowed to dunk in church. If he dunks it, he doesn't get the points for it, but he gets a technical. Lifting the pivot foot does not constitute a travel unless the ball handler puts the pivot foot back on the floor prior to beginning the pass. Yeah. Okay, a couple more. It is not goaltending if after contacting the backboard, the ball is touched by a defensive player, provided the ball has not reached its apex. So, NBA is different. NBA is if it touches the backboard, you can't touch it. High school, it can touch the backboard if it's still going up, and you can hit swat the ball away if it's still on its way up. If it's on its way down, then it's a goaltending. Yeah, basket interference. Somebody puts up you'll see a guy go to do a layup, and the defender runs behind him, slaps the backboard. Basket interference. You'll give him the bucket. It's because he's kind of like trying to bounce the ball out, make it.
Even if the ball's not like really that close to going in, it's like if it was more like a wild layup and the guy slaps the backboard, or would you call it if it like has like a relatively reasonable chance of looking like it's going in? Because if like the person with the ball just throws like a wild shot, and the other guy goes to block it and just throws a hand and hits the backboard, would you still call it, or would you want there to be like reasonable path towards the hoop itself?
Usually, if there's a chance that it could go in. But now the offensive player, sometimes you'll see a guy jump up, put in the layup, and then he'll just kind of slap the backboard himself as he's going, I don't know, he'll put it up and then put the backboard. You wouldn't really worry about it because the intention of the rule is trying to make the ball go out by hitting the backboard. So you wouldn't worry about it on an offensive player. Okay. So it says, it is legal for a defender in the normal course of trying to block a shot to contact the backboard with his hand. This is not basket interference. It is a technical foul only if In your judgment, the contact of the backboard was intentional in nature with no attempt to block the shot. Oh, that's good information. Okay, last one. Basket interference. A player touches the ball or basket or net when the ball is on or within the basket. Touches the ball when it is touching the cylinder, having the rings that is lowered base, at its lowered base. Touches the ball outside of the cylinder, reaches through the basket. So if the ball is on the rim or partially over the rim, anything he touches, basket interference. Okay. Touching the net is only a violation if the ball is in contact with the rim or within the basket. If it is not a violation, the net is touched while the ball is in the cylinder. Again, lead official never have to make this call. That's interesting. It's amazing how many rules are. I mean, it's just like hundreds and hundreds of rules. And then if you've ever seen the base softball rule book, it's like 3 times as thick. And you're like, softball? It can't be that many rules. It's like way thicker.
How big is the football one?
I haven't seen the football one.
I swear there's no like new rules every year for football.
So, if you have, it's fun to talk about rules. If you want to talk, if you have a question, you feel free to call me or email me. It's always fun to discuss it and stuff, but. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.